What is going on, everybody? My name is Kneeckoh, and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC moveset guide. We are hopping back into the fun VGC content because I pretty much covered everything that you need to know in shorts or guides for the rest of the DLC. It's time to talk about these Pokemon because there's a lot of new interesting additions, and there's so many new Pokemon to talk about that will be allowed in Regulation E. Today, we're starting with my favorite of the loyal three, that being FEZANDIPITI. This Pokemon, way better than I was anticipating. I've been running a team with it on Showdown that I'm having a lot of fun with. This Pokemon has a lot of useful tools with the Toxic Chain ability. I think it's really solid, and I believe you should be trying it out. So if this is your first time here on the channel, make sure you are subbed for more videos like this in the future. Let's get into it. So FEZANDIPITI is one that I really didn't think was going to be all that amazing in competitive play, and the reason for that is it doesn't know what it wants to be, right? If you look at its stats, it's got fantastic bulk. It's got 88 HP, 82 defense, and 125 special defense with a decent speed tier at 99 base speed, right? But its attack is where it gets interesting because it's a 70 base special attacker and it is a 91 attack stat. So it really is confused on what exactly it wants to do as far as attacks go, and that for that reason I wasn't sure how good this was actually going to be. However, I really like this particular Pokemon for the reason that it gets a ton of spread moves, and with Toxic Chain, having access to all of those spread moves is absolutely fantastic. It is so freaking good. So because of that, I feel that this Pokemon has a very unique use case. So the one that I have here that I've been using, and I stole the moveset from Moxie Boosted because I think it is a really solid moveset. We have Covert Cloak here, and that's because you do have Tailwind on this Pokemon. You are able to use it as your Tailwind setter, so you can avoid the fake outs, and you can just set Tailwind. It's very useful for that reason. So we have Tailwind here for this particular Pokemon. We have Icy Wind to lower speed tiers, and this is great because it is, again, a spread move. If you hit both, there's a chance the Toxic Chain procs. Very nice. Then we have Dazzling Gleam, so you get that Stab Fairy type damage. Very nice as well. And finally, the move is Venoshock. Now, Venoshock's nice because it power doubles if the target's already poisoned. So, if you're pairing this with your Icy Wind and your Dazzling Gleam and you're poisoning the opposing Pokemon, very nice for the ability to go out and just start hitting stuff very hard with a stab poison move that doubles in damage. I really like this particular moveset. Now, the spread that I have on this is 140 HP, 4 defense, 112 special attack, and max speed. I want to be able to outspeed stuff and be able to get my Tailwinds up, do this, that, or the other, and start hitting stuff very hard in return. So I feel like this is a semi-decent spread for this particular Pokemon. And so far, it's been working very well for me. I've been really enjoying it. It plays decently into a lot of Pokemon that are super popular right now, and just the ability to go out and start hitting stuff with Dazzling Gleams and get that Toxic Chain off is really interesting. But this Pokemon does get access to a lot of other really nice moves. First off, its hidden ability is Technician, which could be interesting depending on how you decide to play this. It does have things like Dual Wing Beat. It also has Acrobatics, which if you have an item, Acrobatics is under that Technician limit, so it will get boosted for the Technician, which is pretty nice. It's just a really interesting Pokemon. It does also have Quick Attack, so there are some shenanigans that you could do with Technician that I think actually could be fairly solid for this particular Pokemon. And I think that as far as it goes, I think that some more support slash damagey role, kind of like what you have here with Tailwind and Icy Wind, is a bit better. It also gets access to things like Roost, which is really nice for the ability to, you know, heal yourself back up if you're running a more bulky FEZANDIPITI. Really solid in that regard. So I have another one here that's kind of goofy, kind of off the wall, something that people won't expect. And this one is Grassy Seed FEZANDIPITI, right? With Acrobatics, Cross Poison, and Shadow Claw. This is leaning more into that physical attack stat because it is higher than the special attack stat. You have HP at 52, 204 attack, and 252 speed with a jolly nature. This is something that you're going to throw out with like Rillaboom, which is really popular. Especially considering Rillaboom did get access to Grassy Glide again. Grassy Glide did get a nerf. It's only a 55 base power move now. However, Grassy Glide just having that priority is still really nice. So Rillaboom is a solid option to throw this next to it with Grassy Surge to get that Acrobatics off. Really fun. But let's talk about some Pokemon that I do think are really solid next to like a standard FEZANDIPITI that's running more of a special attacking spread move, Toxic Chain kind of deal, right? So first and foremost, I have stuff out here. First off, Iron Hands is just going to be good. Iron Hands has not stopped being good. It is continuing to be really solid in the meta. And I think Iron Hands next to this particular Pokemon is really solid because if you think about it, you're badly poisoning Pokemon with Toxic Chain. You're going to badly poison them. It's going to do a lot of chip damage, and it's really solid for that reason. So having something like Iron Hands that is kind of playing into that stall mentality is really solid. Okay, because you're going to want to let that poison do its thing, and Iron Hands allows you to eat hits and continue being just an oppressive threat while also being able to rotate and fake out and do everything else that stall teams like to do. And for that reason, I think Wo-Chan is actually a very solid partner for this Pokemon, right? You can go out there, you can do normal Wo-Chan things with like Leech Seed, Pollen Puff, Foul Play. Like, this is a really solid partner. Not only does it lower the attack stat of the Pokemon that are on the opposing side of the field, but you are able to just kind of sit there and just eat hits with this Pokemon as well. I think it's very, very solid right now with FEZANDIPITI at its side. So I really like Wo-Chan as a partner for this. Obviously, we're going to talk about Fluttermane here. Fluttermane is a great Pokemon because you are getting those Toxic Chains off. You have access to Hex. I really like Fluttermane next to this Pokemon just for that reason alone. Very, very solid Pokemon to just dish out a ton of damage and just basically just annoy the opposing team. So I do like Fluttermane a lot for this particular reason, because you're able to not only set Tailwind to allow Fluttermane to be fast without necessarily investing in speed on Fluttermane, but you're also able to pair that with the Toxic Chain and hit stuff very, very hard back. I think that's super solid. On top of this, let's get rid of some of these. On top of this, you know, I talked about this being a very stally Pokemon because you are laying the Toxic Chains down. I do think that, like, Intimidate Pokemon, looking at, like, Lando or Hisuian Arcanine, is really solid for this particular Pokemon because you are able to play that stall out. You're able to weaken the opposing Pokemon and make sure that they are doing less damage to you and kind of maximize that poison damage, and putting that next to something like a Wo-Chan that is going to be sitting there and just leech seeding and absorbing more damage. That is just going to be a really solid combination to continue just cycling. Like, I really like Assault Vest Lando next to this with U-Turn, so that way you can just keep cycling. Grimmsnarl is another possible option here because Grimmsnarl does get access to Parting Shot. Very solid in that regard, being able to go out there and just kind of annoy the opposing team, be a nuisance. You have access to Fake Out as well. You can set screens to make this Pokemon even better. You just make FEZANDIPITI that much more bulky because it is a relatively bulky Pokemon. It can take a lot of hits, and I really like it for that reason. So Grimmsnarl is another option as far as like a stall Pokemon goes. I think you get more value out of something like Landorus and Arcanine because you're dishing out more damage in return, because you don't just want to be sitting there and doing nothing. And I think that Grimmsnarl has that issue where if you don't have enough strong Pokemon on the team, especially if you're running this with like a Wo-Chan, you're not having enough power to kind of beat through some of the more oppressive Pokemon. So I do really like Lando and Arcanine for that reason as well. But Grimmsnarl is still a valid option. Now, as far as Grimmsnarl goes, it's also really nice because it does play into one of the weaknesses that you have with FEZANDIPITI, that being Psychic types. Psychic types are a problem for that particular Pokemon, so having a Dark type, again, like Wo-Chan or Grimmsnarl, is really nice because you can switch in those Pokemon to take a Psychic type attack that it would be otherwise very detrimental. So I do really like Wo-Chan and Grimmsnarl for that particular reason, playing with this Pokemon. Other things you have to worry about are ground types, which is why I think Lando is very good with this Pokemon. Landorus is something that's just incredibly solid because you avoid the ground type damage and things of that nature. Really, really good in that regard. Wo-Chan's also nice because you can switch into a ground type attack and not have to worry about it all that much. I really like it for that reason as well. But then you also have to worry about steel types. I do think other Pokemon, like, you know, something that can absorb a steel type attack. One that I really do think is fun right now is Milotic. Milotic's really cool because it can switch in, absorb the attack, and it's just so bulky that pairing this Pokemon on the team with, you know, FEZANDIPITI that doesn't like taking that steel type, or even a Fluttermane, I think Milotic's really good in that regard. So I do like Milotic as a teammate, or something like Empoleon that got a boost. Empoleon is a lot better than it used to be because it actually got access to competitive, so it makes it that much better as a special attacker. And I think having something like Empoleon that can switch into a potential steel type attack from like a Heatran or something is really, really solid as well. So I do think Empoleon is a solid teammate for this particular Pokemon. But let's move on to some Pokemon that are going to cause problems for FEZANDIPITI, right? So first and foremost, let's talk about Ursalunas. Both of them are a problem for this particular Pokemon because of that ground type advantage that they have. Very powerful Pokemon. I would argue that base Ursaluna is a bit more of a threat simply because it is that physical attacker, and this Pokemon has less physical defense. And Ursaluna Blood Moon, it takes that time to set up with its throat spray typically, so you do have to be aware of that for this particular Pokemon. You can play into it fairly decently. It is a Pokemon you have to be worried about, but it's not something super crazy. This Pokemon does also get access to Taunt, so if you can prevent the Trick Room through that method, very solid as well. But other Pokemon, Heatran. Heatran is a problem. It gets both ground and steel, so you do have to worry about Heatran. You don't really hit Heatran all that hard for any sort of damage, so I do think Heatran is a problem for FEZANDIPITI. Definitely something to keep your eye on while you're battling. As far as psychic types go, Hatterene is back with, you know, expanding force. You do have to be worried about Hatterene, and that's why I do have poison on this, but like a dark Terra type is a more defensive Terra type is really solid for FEZANDIPITI because you can avoid that psychic damage. It does make you weak to a lot of other powerful things in the format, looking specifically at like Urshifu, Iron Hands, things of that nature, Flutterbane. You do have to worry about those particular Pokemon if you do run a Terra Dark, but it is a valid option to avoid a lot of those damages that you're going to have from things like Hatterene, etc. Now, I don't think we're going to see a ton of it, but Monkey Dory is something that you have to worry about. Where is it? Monkey Dory. Why is it not popping up? I don't know why it's not popping up. Monkey Dory. Interesting. There it is. Monkey Dory. I spelled it wrong. That's the problem. Monkey Dory. Did I do that in all my videos? I think I've done that in every single one of my videos so far. I've spelled it wrong. Anyways, Monkey Dory is another one that you have to be worried about. Not necessarily because of the actual usefulness of this particular Pokemon, but more or less because it is going to hit you very hard for psychic damage. You see it has that 130 base special attack. This Pokemon can cause a lot of problems. If this got expanding force, it would be probably the best of the loyal 3, but it doesn't, so you do have to kind of play carefully if you're using Monkey Dory, but it is a Pokemon you need to keep your eye on. Obviously, Goldango is going to be an issue. Goldango is going to just hit you incredibly hard because of that Make It Rain. You don't really hit Goldango very hard unless you're running like a dark move on this particular Pokemon. It does get access to, I believe, Dark Pulse. Yes, it does. Shadow Ball, I believe, as well. So there are options to cover into Goldango, but it is a Pokemon you need to be aware of when going into battles with this particular Pokemon because you don't really do a whole lot against it. Your Icy Winds aren't going to hit hard. Your Dazzling Gleams aren't going to hit hard. Your Venoshock isn't even going to hit this Pokemon. So you do have to be incredibly cautious when playing into a Goldango with FEZANDIPITI. But that is going to be it for this video, guys. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts on FEZANDIPITI are. I really like this Pokemon, and I'm currently working on building the team around it in the game so I can show you guys on the ladder. Really fun Pokemon. I really do enjoy it quite a bit. But that is, like I said, it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like and sub for more videos like this in the future. Also, be sure to check out the Discord. People over there hanging out playing Pokemon all the time. And if you want to see anything else from me, check out any of the videos that you see here on screen. But until next time, peace.